Hello and welcome to Matt Chambers Connects, a podcast hosted by Matt Chambers. This is the podcast that transcends boundaries, empowers cross-cultural connections, and fosters a more connected world. I'm your host, Matt Chambers, and I invite you to join us on this quest to expand our understanding and build bridges between my two favorite places on the planet, Latin America and the United States. I've been traveling, living, and doing business in Latin America for nearly 2 decades.
Thank you, Matt, for having me. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely, man. How you been? Everything good?
Everything is great. Look at the weather here.
I know, man. Beautiful Medellin, Colombia. You know, this is the first live podcast that I've done where I've interviewed the interviewee live.
Oh,
we were in the
really?
same room. Yeah, I've been doing them all remotely. And, because everyone I interview is all over the world.
Right.
It's hard.
Wow,
to get
yeah,
in the
that's
same-
true. Yeah.
hard to get in the same room. But yeah, man, it's nice to be here. We've known each other quite a few years now, right? 5-6 years before pandemic.
Yeah, definitely before pandemic. I'd say 5 years. You were one of the first people I met here.
Yeah, that's right. So I know you've been, when did you first buy in down here? 2018, 2017?
It's right at the beginning of the pandemic. That 1920?
2019, yeah, that's right. Before pandemic. Gotcha. So you came from Kansas? You grew up in Kansas, had business in Kansas. What was it like growing up in Kansas, man?
Well, Kansas City in itself is more of an outdoor community, hunting and fishing. Although I was in sports most of my high school, college. And being a swimmer, I tried every sport before you can figure out what you're good at. And then, but I didn't really do a lot of that until I got older because swimming, you go from 5 to 7 a.m. and 3:30 to 6, Monday through Friday and Saturday. And then you had meet, and that was 10 months a year. So that took an incredible amount of time. Once I got married, I started hunting, getting together with my rugby buddies. I needed an excuse to get out of the house. So thought hunting would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, like what the hell else do you do in Kansas, right? Hunt, fish?
Hunt and fish, a lot of it. And, which is really great because there's so much open space. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. I can identify. I grew up in West Virginia, middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah.
For me, I didn't really have the patience to hunt or fish. I did it as a kid, but I didn't have the patience to do it. So eventually, I had to get the hell out of West Virginia just to not be bored. But I do understand it. And I think you told me your son's a country music singer. Is that right?
Yes, he's had 3 number 1 hits. Had 8 top 40 hits. He has a great career. It's pretty amazing. He went to Nashville, started, cooking hot dogs in Tootsie's, a famous bar. Then they let him sing. And, first one was 12 to 2. I went in there and there was 3 people in there and he's up on stage singing. I had a panic attack. It was like, oh my God. And then, he was one of the better ones. He moved 2 to 4, 4 to 6. Then he was headlined the 10 to 2 for, it took him 9 years to sign with Sony. So he worked his butt off to do it.
Isn't that kind of the common thing with those guys, though? Anyone that wants to make it, you just kind of have to go throw yourself at the wolves. And,
there's a lot of great voices out there. You don't want to go to a karaoke bar there or in Brampton. But, you have to survive. And, you got to have a little luck. And I'm still amazed when I hear him on the radio that he's one of the 10 million that made it,
Wow.
It's really something.
That's awesome.
Very proud of him. Very proud.
So share with me your journey as an entrepreneur. I know you worked for yourself your whole life, and share a little bit about your upbringing in Kansas and how you got into business and what are some of the key lessons you learned along the way out there.
Well, I started like everyone, fast food at high school, part-time. I think it's probably about 99% of the people in the world. But when I got into college, I'd always worked, and I was doing concert security work and worked my way up to where I was running the company where we'd have 120 people go to a show. So security, ushers, ticket takers. And I really enjoyed that. I got out briefly and went into the corporate world. I double majored in accounting and finance. and sitting in a cubicle drove me crazy. And the concept security thing was always, moving, doing something, a lot of issues all the time. But I just love starting businesses. And it's the one thing, I probably started 7 of them, and 2 of them were very successful. The other ones I still think were great ideas, whether bad timing, bad management, or maybe that's just my ego talking. I still think, but like you, starting a business, it takes a certain mindset, certain person. You got to be able to, you can't be risk adverse if you're doing that. Like when I first started, one of my businesses, I didn't take a paycheck for 2 years.
Nothing.
It was growing, and I knew it was eventually going to be there, but it was a little tough. But
how'd you get through that? You just take the minimum of what you could take, or did you do other things on the side to make that?
Well, fortunately at the time I was married, and that helped because, led to a few fights, of course, but she had an income, so we at least had basic expenses. And the problem was I had a staffing firm. We did attorneys, engineers, project managers. So everything was, you had to pay people. You didn't get paid for 30 days. You couldn't even bill for 30 days. Then you didn't get paid for 30. So you're 60 behind. And then every time you're successful, which means you're adding more people, which means you have more payroll demands, it means you just can't take. I knew it was sitting there, but it was tough. It was never easy. And I'm sure you've had those same things. You've started up many companies, and there's always that, trying to get on there and with every business. And then the next thing is, do I bring on a person to help me? But then I have to pay them. Is there enough work for them full time? And it's, it's always juggling something.
It's easy. I think that when you have a good month, it's easy to think, well, how can I hire somebody to grow this thing? Right. And then as soon as you do that, the next month freaking stuff, and you're like, damn it, that's enter this new person and I got to pay this new person. Damn it. No, I know that was always the hardest thing for me to figure out. But, and I think for most entrepreneurs, we're always trying to figure out, how do we grow it? That's the whole reason we're in business, is to grow. For sure. So, if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Exactly.
Kind of some of these guys I've met over the years, clients, friends, whatever, they get to a point with their business and they're happy, they're content, right? And you start getting complacent and you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're not striving to grow it, somebody's going to come in and fill the business, or you're just going to get laxed. Or
no, that's true, because you're right. If you're not out there doing it, then you start to disengage. For sure. Because everything's kind of just running itself. You're making enough money that you're relatively happy, but you're right. You're not helping the business, and someone else will come in.
For sure. You'd be starting another one in 2 or 3 years, because that one's going to go out of business.
Exactly.
So what did you sell? You sold the business and retired, or?
No, actually, timing wise, our largest account was bought out. We didn't get a new contract with the company. And so it kind of worked out, because it was already I was at the retirement age. I would have liked to have sold it. But during the last couple of years, it's always weird to find people to grow the business. That's the hardest thing. And I wish there was some magic way to do it, because I've tried hiring people with sales management, and apparently I was paying them too much in salary plus commission, because they seem to be very happy not selling.
Sure.
And I've always said this, and it's true. And because I've gone to so many sales trainings, and that even if you're not good at selling, if you just do the numbers, you're going to make money.
For sure.
And it's hard to get that across.
Yeah. And I think it's always a challenge to find someone that's going to care about your business as much as you do.
Well, that's true too.
And they're not going to manage it the way you do. And
exactly.
You're going to end up fighting over that, and it's just not going to work in the end.
I've seen it happen. And the other part was, in the industry, there's usually a non-compete. So you hire a sales manager that doesn't have a non-compete, and then you find out why. Because no one else wants it.
No one wants it. Exactly. So what drew you to Medellin? I know you did some travel. You've done quite a bit of international travel before you came here, right?
Right. I've really started traveling in my 40s. And when the kids were little, I took them to Mexico, Dominican, which still has the most beautiful beaches to me.
Sure.
And so we started traveling. The more I travel, the bug hits you, the more I want to travel.
Right here.
Then I had a friend go to Russia. I went there a few times, and it is eye-opening. I think everyone should travel, because when you come back to the United States, you'll stop bitching.
For sure.
Because except for Europe and the United States, government doesn't do anything for you. And here, in America, everybody whines.
That's right.
I should get this. I should get that. I went to Russia, and once you get out, and it's a town called Ijevsk. It's a military town, so it's like one of the last ones to open up to the West. And so not many people spoke English, but when you saw how these people lived, they all lived in dorms. And it's just amazing to me that that's how the whole population lives. There's a few people that had a house. They had a 2-mile stretch of road that they had just paved. They called it 5 minutes in America, literally.
Because it had a paved road.
Because they had one people, not holes everywhere. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everyone sees TV and they know they want to be in America, but I just thought it was so funny. That's what they all call it.
Yeah, for sure. Travel's opened up my eyes to the things that the United States does well, and also the things that we do bad, right? Because as many things that you see abroad that these countries do poorly, the way they treat their citizens and, all the negative. You see almost as many things that they do well, right? I mean,
Oh, exactly.
and Colombia is the perfect example of that, I think. Everyone thinks that, that's Colombia, so all they do down there is, it's just killing each other and drugs and all that stuff. And it's just not true, right? You get here and you're like, oh my God. The Rappi service, and there's one thing that
you turned me on to that. You said it would be life-changing. It has been.
I've seen so many things here, as you have, that in Medellin, Colombia, that literally I just have never seen anywhere else. And a lot of them are things that when I'm not in Colombia, I miss them. I almost can't live without them.
Yeah.
And one of those is a Rappi delivery service. They deliver absolutely everything you want to your door. Anything.
Day or night.
Doctor, nurse, you need a doctor?
That is the one thing here. I got food poisoning last year. And I had somebody call up, and a doctor came here, gave me an IV in this room, and it was just amazing.
Here in your house, right in your house.
Yeah, right. Because with the food poisoning, I couldn't leave the bathroom for too long, so I couldn't go anywhere.
For sure.
Yeah. But that's incredible. The other is the medical. And I have people back home, though, because I had my eyes done. I had cataracts, came down here. They did it. They put a trifocal lens in, and cheaper than I would have paid with insurance in the States, which is another issue that we'll get to later. But I do everything here now.
For sure.
Fantastic. And people back home can't understand it. They go, what are you, crazy? It's a third world country. I go, I have news for you. Their medical is a lot better than a lot of places in America.
Absolutely. One time I got sick on salmon. I have many of these stories. I won't go into all of them, but I was deathly sick on salmon, and it was my own salmon, by the way. I've never been sick. Take that back. I got sick on fried chicken here one time. But Colombians are so clean in general. They're just clean people. In South America, most countries, Brazil is extremely clean. Colombia is extremely clean. But if you're from the States and you don't travel, you hear about Colombia and you're like, oh my God, my brother-in-law at one point, he was like, I thought Colombia just had a bunch of potholes and dirt roads. And I'm like, oh man, Colombia is incredible. The infrastructure is incredible, and especially for a third world country. But I got sick on my own salmon. I left it out too long, and I went ahead and cooked it, ate it. Stupid. The next day I wake up deathly ill. And my buddy John, who had been here for about 8 years or something, a couple years before me, he said, Matt, don't even pass go directly to the emergency room. I'm like, the emergency room? Can I just go to the pharmacy and get a pill or something? He's like, no, go direct. That's what people do here. They go directly to the emergency room. And at that point, I had signed up on their private health insurance through Sora. And I go directly to the emergency room. There were probably 6 or 7 people in the line in front of me. But I flashed my Sora private healthcare card and literally skipped the line. She says, go over to the other window and pay your copay. The copay was the equivalent of about 13 or 14 American dollars at the time, right? And she said, just wait in the chair. We'll call you. Literally, my ass hit the chair. And she says, Mr. Chambers, come on back. And I could see these other people were just deathly sick. And I'm like, wait, I'm skipping these people? How can we do that? Because I had the private health insurance. They passed me right back into the emergency room. Swear to you, within 5 minutes, I have IVs in my arm. 3 hours later, I'm out of there. I feel them 100%.
And I've done that a couple times. I have a driver who speaks both English and Spanish. Obviously, I'm not, unfortunately, fluent like you who gets heads turning when they see you talk in a restaurant because you sound like a Colombian. But
I've worked hard for that, by the way.
yeah,
But
you
it
have. You
wasn't
have.
easy.
No, without a doubt. And but I went in there. I go in this little room at the ER. I'm the only one there. And as they're doing X-rays, I look out and I see, oh my God, there's another waiting room. I'm in the American paying cash. They like that
For sure.
and I'm like, I went right in. It was amazing.
Yeah. And, I tell people back in the States, they're like, oh, I need to get this dental work done or that dental work done. And I'm like, well, you just go down to Colombia, and here's my dentist. I'll give you a dentist. Go see him. And people turn their heads like, I'm never doing that. I've heard too many horror stories. And the experience I've had with medical here has been absolutely incredible. I've had surgeries here. I had my dentist I've gone to every 6 months for the last 6 or 7 years. I see no difference in what he does and what I get done in the States.
No, they have the same equipment. It's just as nice. Yeah.
My teeth cleaning costs $25 out of pocket, right?
Because I have a little heart issue that goes back in that they're supposed to check every year. Checked it last year. Well, I get back to the States. I call them up to check it. No one ever contacts me. And then I kind of forget about it. So now I'm coming back. It's been a year and a half. And I'm like, this is my heart. I had my gal call up who speaks, and you'd met her, speaks English and Spanish on a Friday, calls the heart doctor. They get me in Monday afternoon. Unlike the United States, I'd have to wait 2 months.
It's different. Yeah, for sure.
Gets me in 300 patients, $75.
300,000 pesos. Wow.
Yeah, 300,000 patients. But I was like, God, that's the one good thing about here. You rarely ever have to wait. You just get in, you can get everything done, and it's great care.
They take health serious here.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just it's a beautiful thing. I actually saw a few years back, someone showed me where the U.S. had fallen in terms of the overall healthcare system. The U.S. had fallen to around 34 on the world list.
Yeah, it's crazy. I tell
Colombia was 17.
Yeah. No, I tell people to look it up. I go, they have a better healthcare system. It's much faster and it's much cheaper.
Now that said, I don't think people should come down here and just see whatever doctor, right? I mean, because you could see a bad doctor here more easily than you could in the States. But if you're going to the top hospitals, I mean, most of these guys have been educated in the U.S., Europe. I mean, they come back here, they're absolutely incredible. And, they've done their internship and stuff abroad and maybe worked abroad for, X years. So you're getting U.S. quality at these better facilities for a tenth of the price.
No, and that's an excellent point. You just don't want to go anywhere. But fortunately, now that I've gotten to know people here, they have directed me to the best places, and yourself included has helped me with that. And, and now that we each have a group of people that we go to, and I had my eyes done. We went to the one clinic. I had no idea. I didn't even know I was going to do it here. Yeah. But it's amazing.
It's been
once you're here, and people in the state, you're right, because they're like, it's third world. Why would you ever trust them to do something? I go, you have to be here to see it. For sure.
It's just that's another reason I think, going back to your point, that people should travel, because it is easy to sit in Kansas, as an example, or West Virginia, or even wherever, Atlanta, right? There's people that don't travel all over the United States. So it's easy to sit back there and say, oh, Colombia, all I've heard about that is narcos and, but then you come here, the buildings are freaking beautiful. The mountains are beautiful, right? I mean,
I have one of my best friends, lawyer in town, and he goes, have you seen the crime there? I go, have you seen the crime in Chicago? You go there, don't you? I go, you don't go to the bad part.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to be somewhat smart, but I'm like, Chicago's worse. They're killing everyone there.
No, I mean, and not just Chicago, but all liberal run cities in the States. The States is savage,
That is shit.
It's gotten worse since pandemic, obviously.
Oh, much worse. And, with all the, hey, let's let these people out. So there's no repercussions if you're a criminal.
In Colombia, it's easy to sit in the States, and I've done it myself. I'm not here full time. I spend time in the States all the time, and it's easy to go away for 2 or 3 months to start looking at all the crime stats you see on Facebook or you see on Instagram, and then think, oh my God, what's going on in Medellin right now, right? Because it's the only perspective you have. You're not down here walking around the streets every day and seeing the realities of it. You're just seeing Facebook.
Oh, you know what? That's an excellent point, because what do they report on? It's all negative news.
It's all the negatives.
Yeah. I mean, bets in every country. They're all reporting on.
And stuff happens in Colombia for sure. There's no denying that this stuff's happening. But one thing I've noticed is that the majority of these guys, I would say high 90%, right? Just to be conservative.
Yeah.
Most of these guys are putting themselves in those situations, just like they do in the States, right? If I go to the south side of Chicago, right, and just decide to go walking around, well, there's a high chance that something's going to happen.
You know, that is an excellent point in which I tell people, I haven't had anything happen to me. Now, granted, low luck.
Anything can happen, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've had my house in Kansas City get broken into. So, I mean, it happens everywhere. And, you know, obviously I'm in a nice neighborhood for sure. But the other thing is I tell people, but I don't also, as you just said, which is the best point, I don't put myself in that position. I'm not out drunk at 4 a.m.
Exactly.
I mean, that's when you're going to get into a situation where you're not thinking as well as where you should be. And that's where people, when does most crime happen?
There's nothing good happening after midnight, right?
Exactly.
I mean, for the most part. And, you know, I think another thing to point out in Colombia is that the rules are different here. You just simply can't come down here and do the exact same things that you can everywhere else, right? I mean, if I come down here and, you know, I can go to Miami and I can get on Tinder and swipe right 100 times. I'll get a couple dates, maybe.
Right.
Maybe. You come down here and you swipe right 100 times on Tinder, you'll get 100 dates, right? But they're not going to be
kind of like that though.
But they're not going to be the 100 that you want, right?
Right.
So it's not the good.
Yeah.
The good people aren't on those apps here, and so these are getting in trouble with.
No, you're right. You do have to be careful. And the other thing is, I know you have seen a lot of stuff. I may be wrong, but I think because one, you're so fluent and you're so comfortable here that you can go anywhere, that you stay in different areas that I have not been able to reach out into yet because I'm not fluent. So you're in more local areas, so you probably have seen more, which a lot nicer areas. I would like to get there someday. So I think probably some of the crime you've seen in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I've seen crime in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for years, right? I mean, they robbed my neighbor's Lambo in Buckhead when I was there. Literally. Walk right in the garage and stole. They broke into our garage, which is a really high-end building in Atlanta with 24/7 security. Broke in multiple times, stole 6-7 cars out of there. I mean, I've seen it everywhere. And I don't want to paint the picture that, you know, Medellin's perfect and you should come down here and do whatever the hell you want, because I don't think that's true. But, you know, you need to.
If you want to travel, though, I have been in many countries, and I would suggest finding this one, at least to see it.
Absolutely. Beautiful place. Great people.
People are so friendly. It's just amazing.
For sure. And you've invested in several properties here, right?
Yes.
And how many, when do you have now? 3 or 4 of them?
Three.
And you were looking at more at some point.
It's, you know, it's nice, steady income. And to be quite honest, we have a mutual friend who helped me do that.
Yep.
And he's, you know, I don't know, I would have done it without, you know, he had properties. He was telling me, you know, you should do this. I started looking at it. And he, you know, mentored me through it. And of course, everything in life we all need help. We're not born with anything.
Learning from,
right. So we all learn from someone. And so that's worked out really well. I was, you know, the only thing for people who want to invest, and this is the same as in Europe too, they're not going to give you a mortgage. You got to be able to have cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, if you find a nice place with, you know, that's got a track record, and for me, it's worked out really well because you have management companies. I don't do anything. I just get a check every month, you know, so it's worked out really well. I've been very happy. At first, I was a little nervous because they elected a new president who was a little more liberal than I wanted to think, but appears most of his agenda hasn't gone through. The place, and now that COVID's over, the place looks like it's booming more than ever.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. You know, I don't know what the real estate market's going to do here. I know that the guys like yourself who bought pre-pandemic for sure, and I have some buddies that have bought all the way back to like 2011, 2013.
Oh, I'll bet they're happy as hell.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, the market's doubled, I think, since 2011 or 12, something like that. The yield, your yields have been really high, right? 12, 13%.
Yep. You've been up there. And, you know, just recently, I was looking at the properties. They're up, you know, 40, 50%.
In value.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm like, which is incredible. I was just happy with the income. Yeah.
You know, when I first started coming down here, I came down here just on vacation in 2015. I found this place by accident. I had gotten invited to a wedding over on the coast in Cartagena by one of my neighbors in Atlanta. Yeah. He was like, let's go. I'm going down to a wedding in Colombia. You want to come with me? And at that time, things were great. And, you know, just got out of my furniture business, all that stuff. And what else do I have to do, right? So I bought a flight like last minute. He asked me like the day before.
Oh,
And I was like, fuck it, dude. I don't have anything to do. Let's do it. So ended up in Cartagena, and I stayed 10 days, and I had heard about other parts of Colombia, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't have anything else to do. I stayed and traveled through the country. I went all over, and the very last city I found was Medellin. I was going to stay 4 days. I'm staying 4 days, and that's it. Bought like a Thursday to Sunday type deal. And after that weekend, I went to migration and asked for extra time. I was like, I want to extend my stay. And then I just kept coming. So, and then 2017 to 2022, I was here pretty much full time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just, it was incredible. And now I'm not here full time, but it was an incredible experience.
You know, it's funny. I was traveling around. I saw a group. It was foreign brides looking for foreign brides. Not that I wanted to get married.
What the hell were you doing on foreign brides if you weren't wanting to get married?
Because I wanted to travel, and it was a group.
It was a good excuse. Yeah.
I am not like you. You have traveled all over South America, and I am very envious by yourself. I cannot do that. You were like, you're like, hey, I'm going here. Well, what's there? I don't know yet. I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know.
So I went to Cartagena, extended my stay. First time I've ever done that in my life. Then they had another one here in Medellin, and I just fell in love with this city. It was just the climate, the people, just everything. I was kind of hoping to find somewhere to go in the winters. I didn't want to go to Miami like everyone else, but it was. I mean, it's just incredible. As soon as I got here, I did feel like I was home. I mean, it was just amazing.
Of all my travels, and it's funny you're talking about me going random places, but when I built my mattress business, I flew to China several times. Every time I went, I'd spend like 3-4 weeks.
Really?
And so at first it was just Hong Kong, right? So Hong Kong's first world, big deal, right? You can go to Hong Kong land and you can speak English if you want to, whatever.
Right.
But it's still freaking China, man. You're not in the States anymore. You're in first world. But I at one point I took a ferry to go to the mattress factory where I built my mattresses. It required a ferry from Hong Kong to Foshan City. It was about a 3-hour ferry ride. Jeez. Now imagine my obvious American ass on a freaking ferry for 3 hours. Now Hong Kong is different because I can, menus in English, all that stuff's a little bit easier. But I'm on a fucking ferry going up some random ass river in the middle of nowhere, China, trying to find a mattress factory.
Am I going to make it home?
I didn't have any idea, man. And all of a sudden you go from Hong Kong to mainland China, everything fucking symbols. You're not seeing any more English. It's all symbol. I couldn't tell a pizza shop from a hospital along the way. But here I am like wandering around in Foshan City trying to find a mattress factory. And even those no-name cities in China have, multiple millions of people. So you're in just a sea of people.
That's crazy.
But that was my...
Russia was kind of like that because they have all these words that have like 4 consonants in a row, which we don't have in the English language. You can't figure out what the hell they're saying. It can be intimidating.
The only 2 cities, my point I failed to get to, the only 2 cities I've ever flown to and immediately fell in love. I felt an energy that I've just never felt before in Hong Kong and an energy I've never felt before in Medellin. Very different places, obviously.
Right.
But there's something about landing in both of those cities that just gave me some kind of weird energy immediately. I land still today in Rio Negro here, and I'm like, I've been here 100 times.
Right.
But I land and there's just something comes over me when I get to this place. And the same happened to me in Hong Kong. It's incredible.
And besides speaking the language, you've also culturally ingrained yourself, in a lot of different things here. And, you're in groups, also in dance, which I'd like to do someday.
I've embraced it for sure. I definitely, I'm not a pat myself on the back guy, but that's one of the things that I'm pretty proud of.
I tell you what, I've said this to other people about you. I'm envious as hell all that you've done here.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's been good.
It also gives me something to strive for, so I like that.
I'm glad I could be a little bit of an inspiration in some way. But so how are you balancing your time now between the States and Medellin?
What I've been doing, and I may change it up a little bit, but been doing basically about 6 months in each. And the time in the States, I have a lake house and go back for the summer months by Branson, Missouri, which is a big touristy area. It's a big, you see in the show Ozarks, it's not that lake, but one just like it, about the same size. And the kids, so I go back, see the kids, the grandkids, my friends, and, obviously enjoy the weather there and just have a great time, get on the water and play. And I don't really fish a lot, but, surfing, wake surfing's now the big thing there.
Are you doing that?
Well, I was before my surgeries. I put me down for about 3 years. I'm trying to get back into it. My kids are very good at it.
Now they just let you drive the boat and buy the food and the beer.
When COVID hit, I had a bad knee and a bad ankle, and they couldn't do replacement surgery because it was non-essential. And I was like, fuck, doc. When is walking non-essential? And he knows me. He goes, Michael, I didn't make the rules up. I go, I know, but it's bullshit. And it was. For sure. So 2 years of suffering, watching the boat go out, sitting on the dock or sitting on the deck. So now I'm back trying it. I think most everything's coming back. And, like my kids who are young, they're surfing behind the boat. They can catch a beer and drink it. I'm so proud. Catch a beer and drink it at the same time. That's my daughter. I'm not sure I'm getting Dad of the Year, but that's my daughter.
So what do they say? The carrot doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, exactly. But so hopefully I will get back and do that. And then winter, and I noticed it this year. When I left, it was about 37 degrees in November, and I'm inside and I'm walking down the steps and I'm having to go one step at a time because my joints hurt. So I'm reading about it. They say the barometric pressure and, the temperature. As soon as now I know why us old people go south and why people go to Florida and Arizona. Mm-hmm. I mean, my joints just work. So I've been coming here in the winter, which has been a godsend because what I also love here is I'm more active. You're outside, you're walking, you're going to the gym.
Yeah, you don't have a car here, so you have to walk to a lot of places.
But it's so beautiful out. You want to be outside. Otherwise, you're huddled in. So what I've been doing, that's how it's been working. And actually, thank God, because here, I'm actually working out even more in the winter here because it's so nice. And, everything's so cheap. You can afford to have a trainer and all that. And then, when I go home for the other half, but yeah, so I get the best of both worlds is all I can say.
That's another thing that's been amazing about just South America in general, not just Medellin, but Medellin for sure. You could have access to so many things here that you can't have anywhere else, right? And I think we talked about this the other day. You've learned a lot and done a lot here, but there's so many health things you still haven't tapped into. I mean, trainers here are cheap, like you just said. A nutritionist, if you want nutrition.
that you mentioned, yeah. and I definitely want that. Because you're the second person that mentioned that last week.
Yeah, I mean,
that you can have that. It's so easy.
Everything in the States is commerce, right? Everyone's trying to make a shitload of money off of everything, and it's interesting here. Health things, they don't really look at like a profit center. I've noticed. I mean, I have a gym over in Laureles by the stadium. And I was paying about $20, I believe, for the annual membership, and then $20 a month for the monthly. So there was like an annual fee you had to pay of $20, and then $20 for the monthly, and it came with a trainer. And now I'll still be training 2 or 3 people at the same time, but who gives a fuck for $20? Like,
I mean, after a while, like my trainer's like, okay, we're doing this circuit. Well, now I know what a circuit is. Every day it's maybe a little different. But the other thing, and this is the guy I met at the gym, which is where I meet most people when I'm traveling. Mm-hmm. And, I'm talking to a guy and he's your age. He's a young guy. And, he's got a driver. He's got a nutritionist, a chef. He's got a personal admin. For sure. And, it's just amazing because everything is so cheap here. You can afford to get so much stuff done that you can't do in the States. And I just love that about this country.
It's stuff that you wouldn't do if you had the money.
Yeah.
Even people that can go get a butler and can go get a private one-on-one trainer every day to come to their house, they just won't do it in the States. Not part of the culture most of the time. But you come here and it's a no-brainer not to do it.
Oh God.
They make everything freaking easy.
I know. I was like going and I've worked out my whole life. I played college sports and I was like going, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. First day I went in there, I passed out. I was like lightheaded. I mean, we're going machine to machine. And my son, when he was out on tour, he had a trainer. He told him the first day he puked. And I'm like going, oh my God, I feel like that's going to be me. We had to like stop. I go, okay, having a trainer makes you work out a lot harder. I also swim. Swimming on a team makes you swim at a whole lot different pace you're ever going to do on your own.
For sure.
So,
and did you stem cells here? Because I know Medellin's famous for stem cells now. They have that bioaccelerator.
Yeah, that's the one I went to. I spent $36,000.
It's just right down the street from us, right?
Yeah.
We are right now.
Well, it's right by that. It's in that mall.
It's down by Clínica Medellín, right?
No. What's that mall you went to when you were at that apartment?
The Tesoro Mall?
It's in there.
That's where it is?
Yes.
It's inside there.
So I stayed when we drove by it the other day. I go, oh, this is the hotel we were in because we went up there to see a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see my heart doctor. And, but yeah, $36,000. They're like, hey, we can put it in this. It'll do your joints. It'll do, you can do your hair. It can do this and this and this. $36,000 later, I didn't get anything out of it. And
You didn't. It didn't work for you.
now somebody must be, because I see videos of professional athletes going there.
No, Mike Tyson comes down here. I think Rogan comes down here, if I'm not mistaken. I know that Rogan talks about bioaccelerator a lot on his podcast.
Yeah. Oh, does he really?
Yeah, he talks about it a lot. And I think I know Mike Tyson confirmed that he's been here.
Yeah.
So it's a little place.
It's got to work. I asked them afterwards because I wasn't very happy, obviously. But they say, yeah, it's like 80%. I go, I don't remember you saying that before. I really
Like an 80% chance it'll work?
Yeah.
So you got the 20. That's fucking.
So I'm the 20. And now I'm not happy, obviously, because I think that you should have misled a little bit. Yeah. I'm not real pleased. But on the other side, I do understand not everything works for everybody. But I do think they were overselling it at the time
For sure.
for doing everything.
Did you price shop that in the States just to compare? Well, 36,000 here. What would that have been in the States for what you got done?
At the time, no, because they were doing stem cells here, which are in the States. I've had some stuff done, but they use your cells. I don't want a 66-year-old cell stem cells going here. They're not stem, but cells. But so down here, the stem cells are the golden ones. That's the ones you wanted. So that's why I came here. And when you can't walk,
You'll do whatever.
you'll do anything to be able to get up and move around.
Yeah,
So that was my pandemic life.
absolutely. So let me circle back a minute.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain as much as we can on the business side, obviously, because of your success back in the States. But what advice would you give individual looking to invest or start a business down here? Would you even recommend starting a business in South America? Is there any point to it?
There is, I think, but obviously you need American dollars and you need to earn American dollars. That's hard to do here.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, what I do see is real estate management. I mean, look at, Castro. Yeah, basically started like 2012 and it's probably managing like 2,000 units.
For sure.
Yeah, I think 15% off Airbnb you make.
2,200.
Yeah.
2,200 units.
Yeah. So it's, I think, because you only need a few to get started that you can survive here.
Sure.
And then you just keep adding every year. And the person managed some of mine too. She's got like 10. So she's Colombian.
Yeah.
So she's happy as hell.
No, real estate, it's been good for the last 10, 12 years. I mean, you see that they're building new buildings all over the
I
place.
know. When I go in there, oh my God, they're building stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, it's
And somebody's got to manage them.
absolutely. And I don't think tourists are going to stop coming here. This place is already, it's been found and it would have to go. I don't see it happening, but this place would have to go back to like what it was in the 80s for people to stop coming here. People love this place.
No, yeah, I don't see that happening. And I don't see them wanting it to happen because it's bringing in too much money.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, this is, probably what Mexico was like 30 years ago. I don't know, but it's just booming, growing like crazy. And if you were starting a business, labor is cheap, which is why I say like real estate, you can hire someone to clean or fix something for next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's, I see a lot of people who are, working remotely.
And obviously investing has certainly paid off for you big time here.
Yeah.
I mean, just in a short time,
yeah.
you've made a lot of money on your properties, as have many others down here.
Right.
So it's I hope it keeps going that way. I think it
Makes
will.
two of us.
I think
it will.
I think it certainly will. But yeah, I mean, Colombia is a hard place. Some of these guys that come down and start restaurants, to each his own for sure. But I just never saw a point. And
No, yeah, I was going to say, I don't see a point doing that.
well, because you're still working the same freaking 80 hours you work at a restaurant in the United States or 100.
Right.
And you're bringing home like $1,500 a month. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You could teach English online and make that.
And if you're bringing home 1,500 here, that's a good month. You're still working your butt off.
Yeah. You're putting in the 80 hours, whereas if you had a successful, not that I recommend the restaurant business, no one, even restaurant owners recommend the fucking restaurant business, but even a successful restaurant in the States, if you're putting in your 80 hours and you're successful, you're at least going to you're getting some money for your efforts. And whereas down here, it's a little bit of a challenge.
Even in the States, 80% of restaurants go out in the first 2 years. I mean, it's a whole lot of money, which if you're opening up a restaurant, you better not be buying new equipment. You better be jumping on a place that somebody else went out and already has all that in there. And
to me, down here, it's real estate in some form.
I would agree with that.
To really make money, or you just get some work online or some kind of business. That's what a lot of guys do.
Well, yeah. I mean, the ones, they didn't have it when I was younger. It's probably a great idea. My business would have taken off, but to work remotely and have American dollars and living down here, which, you can live 1,000 to 2,000 a month like a king here.
For sure. And a couple grand a month, you're doing everything you want to do.
Oh, hell yeah.
Easy.
Hell yeah.
And so if you're making even mediocre, what would be considered a mediocre American salary, your money just stacks up.
And I tell people like me that are retired, I go, you won't even spend all your Social Security money, let alone touch any investment you have or anything like that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, for some reason, shared his financial situation with me a few years back. He just in terms of what he's bringing in every month in Social Security, but he is bringing in $2,900 a month in Social Security,
right.
And then he has some kind of annuity that's $600 or $700 a month, equals $3,500. I think in total is what he brings in. He was living in a penthouse.
Oh, really?
Right. I mean, this thing was like 3 bedrooms, massive, big, huge floor plan, 180-degree views. Paying,
wow.
I think
that's a beautiful area.
I think he was paying $1,200 or $1,300 a month for his rent. Right. In Miami, that place would be $10,000 a month. So about $1,200, $1,400 a month in rent. Anyway,
easily 10 times over.
His total expenditures were $2,500 a month. Right. So just off that small little bit of $3,500, he was putting $1,000 a month just accumulating in his checking account. And then all the money he had saved, he had a successful company, they sold and he invested the money well. His money that he had invested in like the S&P, mutual funds, all that stuff, had more than doubled in like the first 7 years he was here, because it was during the Trump, for roughly that 2015 to 2022 thing.
Oh, I miss those days, but yeah.
Yeah, we're fucked on that. But anyway, so 2015 to 2022, his money doubled, and the money he had saved. And then he has this random little $1,000 that he's saving every month from his little $3,500 salary because he lived here. And so his words to me were, moving here for many people like myself is also a financial decision.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Because in the States, he'd be drawing out of that retirement, spending all the $3,500
easily.
His money would be going down instead of up.
No, that's what I try to get across to people is, and for people to leave, it's, everyone's situation is different. Obviously, family's the biggest tie, but if you can get away, and, people get away to Florida for 6 months of the year, get somewhere like here. Florida's expensive as hell.
It's so expensive. And you'll have more fun here, man.
Oh, definitely.
How much more? I mean, how many times have you left your house to hang out with some buddies and you get home at the end of the 3 or 4 hour period and you're like, damn, I spent $10 a day. I've done it and spent $0. I've literally gone to dance events that were in parks and things like that, that they give a free class or whatever. I get finished and I'm like, I just had 3 hours of fun for $0. I spent nothing.
There was a little place where I used to stay over by Hotel du Parc. I went there every day for 2 weeks. A bunch. 2 empanadas and a bottle of regular Gatorade, regular size, $2. I mean, my brain just couldn't comprehend how cheap some things are.
You know what's interesting? I'm not trying to one up that story by any means. If you search in Medellin, you can find a whole meal for, $2 or $3.
Well, I was about to say, if anybody can one up it, it's you, because you have been everywhere. I am in the touristy area, though. My stories can't be.
Yeah, you're getting screwed by $2. I'm out in the country, man, where it's like, they've only seen 3 or 4 guys like me where I live. So
I noticed when I went with you to that area, they don't have a lot of gringos, and we're standing out and everyone's staring. I go,
oh, for sure.
I feel like a rock star.
For sure. It's, but I like that. I mean, it keeps me out of the riffraff. It's a little quieter.
Yeah.
And, I know everyone out there knows me. I know them at this point. It's kind of nice.
It's even less expensive. And it's a beautiful area.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is.
They have everything out there. And someday I'm going to be there with you.
Let's do it, man. I need some neighbors. I need some neighbors I can speak English with.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though I speak Spanish pretty well at this point, sometimes I need a break.
You can always use a new wingman. We always need them.
I could use a wingman. That's for sure. Always. Well, hey, let me ask you another business question. What advice would you give, young guys or individuals that are trying to get their own businesses launched in the States? Not here, but in the States at this point.
Well, obviously, it's multi-level, which a lot of people push in, and depending on the industry. But, the others, my business was a service. And back in the day, I was dealing with, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies because I could. I think that's a lot harder now because even looking at to start a business like mine, you would have to have so much insurance, so much revenue. You couldn't do it like you could, but you could do it to the mid-sized companies. And that's where I think most people should be looking to service those types of companies.
The mid, the smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You gotcha. And what do you think that the key considerations and strategies for success and that would be right now? I know you told me a story when you were little you weren't little, but you were struggling to get off the ground, right? And you had a business that failed and you didn't know what to do. And I think your dad said,
go ahead
and tell the story.
I was 30, bankrupt. I'd started a couple businesses and, didn't work, couldn't get traction. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? All my friends are married. They have houses, we can see the path forward for their life. And I'm like, you're treading water. Yeah, I'm losing. And he goes, it's really not that much, but he goes, you were never one to work for somebody. He goes, this is where your passion is. And I think that passion is a key word because even my son in the country music, that was his passion. It's the only thing he cared about. And, but anyway, he said, just keep going. Something's going to work. And also to tell you kind of relate to that with my son, he left about halfway through the 9 years when he was trying to make it.
In Nashville? He left Nashville?
Came home. I didn't say anything for a couple of weeks. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? No, maybe go back to school. I go, I don't know. We weren't that great at it.
You weren't in school. That's not.
And he said, I'm old now. But what I said to him was kind of what my dad said to me. It kind of fell along. And it's like the only thing you care about is music. That is your passion. So I said, go back. I don't know if you're going to make it or not, but what you don't want is years down the road to have regrets over it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I got from my dad and kind of what I pushed into him. And he did go back and thank God it worked out. But you got to have passion for something.
But that's what I felt for myself. I sit around and think about those things all the time. I'm like, when I get to 80, right? Because I speak with a lot of, all my friends are older, right. Almost all my friends. And I love speaking to older people. And I've spoken to a lot of guys.
You're referring to other people, not me, right?
No, you're not there yet. You're not yet. But I've spoken to a lot of guys that are at that 75 to 85 range in my life. And they just seem, a lot of them just seem like, you can just see it on their face. They're just not, they have regrets. They're unhappy about whatever it is.
Right.
And I just don't want to get to that age and say, damn it.
Don't have regrets. Don't be bitter. Right.
Because at the end of the day, unless you're Elon Musk, unless you're Steve Jobs, you're great. The chances of people actually remembering what the fuck you did when you're here are like zero, right?
Right.
So most of us are scared to do what we really want to do because we're afraid our buddies are going to make fun of us, right? That fucker's going to be dead just like me in about 30 years.
Right. Now, that's an excellent point because, it doesn't. And in the grand scheme of things, none of that does. And, the problem, and we touched on it before, is being in the States, we're always like, no matter what we have, somebody's always got more. Well, not Bill Gates. Well, not Elon Musk. And it's like, we're just on this like treadmill, like a mouse. Just
a hamster wheel.
Yeah, hamster. Mm-hmm. And it's like, get off and enjoy it a little bit along the way. Yeah.
That brings me to another point. My buddy said this the other day. He made the same point you did in a different way. He says, and if you're in the States and you're not a mega billionaire at this point. He's like a multi-millionaire at this point gives you no status.
Right.
But you have to be like a mega billionaire now to get any status. But the minute you land in South America, not just Medellin or a country like this, it could be the Far East, it could be, Eastern Europe, a lot of different places around the world.
Oh, exactly.
You get immediate status, right? Because your money goes further. You go to Miami right now, it doesn't matter. You got $5 million. I don't care. The neighbor has 10, and his neighbor has 50.
And by the way, I could burn through half of it pretty damn quick down there too in a few years. But that is one of the joys of traveling. It's just, and everything comes down to me as I've gotten older. I realized, because I didn't before, we were all chasing a dollar, and there's nothing wrong with that. We need it. You got to have it. But everything's experiences. What all can you see? There's so much in it. Like, you have a great vacation. Oh, I'm going to go back there. Yeah. But then you go, what else is out there? What else is just as cool?
For sure. And when I go back to the States, I notice this all the time is there's so many people that just have nothing to talk about other than what they're doing in business and and the money, right? And I think I was that person when I was in the furniture business. Sure, I was making great money. I was doing other stuff on the side, and had
you were
a couple different income streams and this and that, and all you thought about was money. And I don't get me wrong, I love that. It was fun. Right. It drove me, and it still drives me to this day. But at the same time, what really fires me up is when I can talk to somebody like yourself that's done well in business, and then you have some fucking stories. You've traveled, you've seen stuff all over the world. These guys that just work until they're 80, and all they can talk about is what they're doing in business. I'm like, ew, that sucks.
It's funny you said that, though, because I was so focused on working, and I started probably, like I said, in my 40s, and business was good at that point. But I had one of my best friends. I go, yeah, I'm going to take Madison to Disney World. He goes, I've been hearing that forever. You going to wait till she graduates high school? And he was right. I did it. And it was like, and then once you do it, you catch the bug and you want to keep doing it.
For sure.
But he was right. All I would do was talking. You got to get out and do something.
Yeah. And, I get people all the time. They're like, hey, I want to start traveling like you. I mean, how do I do that? And I'm like, well, you need to start by leaving Mississippi and going over to Georgia. Right? You don't need to go from Mississippi to Hong Kong or Tokyo tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you do that small trip from Mississippi to Georgia, I'm making that up randomly, obviously, but if you just start somewhere and then you get that bug that you're talking about. You just keep going.
And then you're right. Once you have taken even these small trips, you have something to talk about.
For sure.
I have a friend of mine I took him to Costa Rica that I think is coming down here in February. He had never been out of the country. He goes, well, that's not what we do, meaning his family. And I was like,
that sucks.
I go, you're going to be the most interesting person now when you go back at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it was the first time he'd ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he loves it, of course. And that's the other thing is it is so eye-opening. If you've never done it, there's a little fear, there's hesitancy. But once you're out there, you're going to want to keep doing it.
If you've been watching CNN and they're telling you about all the people that are dying in Mexico City and then, of course, those people are dying in Mexico City. That's real.
Sure.
But Mexico City's so big. I mean, something could happen to you 4 hours away. Something that happened in Mexico City could be 4 hours away from where you are.
Right. It's so big. And that's Chicago. Every weekend, there's a dozen, 20 people shot and killed. And it's like, do you not go to Chicago? Well, you just care for where you go.
Yeah.
And, where we stayed here, very nice area. And like I tell people, I go, I see cops everywhere. There's like a cop on the corner almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So the chances are more remote, obviously, but it's a safe place to be. But I'm also not going crazy and going out in the barrios and seeing what I can do there because I would be dead.
Yeah.
Because this gringo face, I can't walk down the street without people going, hey, amigo.
Hey, I can understand that. I don't really blend in too well myself, but
which is why I'd like to get out to your area. So that's a goal of mine.
Any memorable experiences before we wrap up? Tell me some memorable experiences you've had here that you think would resonate with people.
I took a picture today and sent it to somebody back home, and they're like, and it's, this is a city. And they're like, look how green it is. And this is the city of Eternal Spring. And it's a beautiful city. And just things like that you just don't, when you go into another city, in New York, you don't even see the sun those buildings sometimes. It's crazy. And, but here, the thing that for me, the climate is basically the same all year. I'm in shorts,
70, 75 degrees every day, right?
and the people go out of the, you know what? I am from the Midwest, and the Midwest people, kind of in your area, because more rural too, people are friendlier. But here, they're always friendly, and for as little money as they make, they're always smiling.
For sure.
They're always happy. And I found that in many countries. So it's just to be able to get out there. People will take the time to show you something or to help you because you're lost. And I can't speak the language. So they've got to say it 50 different ways to see if something resonates in my head.
Yep.
But they're happy to do it.
But you've been learning the language. You've been spending some energy on that, huh?
That's my number one goal on this trip. I have a tutor and again, a teacher. Again, it's easy to hire people here and inexpensive. 3 days a week, 2 hours a day. And just in the last few weeks, I can now put phrases together. Whereas I've used Duolingo for 2 years, and which has helped me to understand words, but couldn't talk. But now I'm getting into the conversational piece. So I'm kind of excited.
Yeah. It's an exciting journey. I spent years on it myself, and you definitely get a different experience once you speak the language, and some positive, some negative. It's not all positive, but it certainly helps you from the taxi driver driving you all around the city and screwing you around, right? Which really doesn't happen here, but it happens in other parts of the world.
But the other is, it does make it, what do I like most is the culture. So you're able to enjoy the culture and the people.
I think if you respect these people, and it's the same anywhere you go in the world, right? I mean, if I go from West Virginia to Miami or Miami to Kansas, wherever I go, if I respect the people and I'm nice to people, they're nice to me. And it's for sure that here, right? Exaggeratedly nice here. They're so nice, but at the same time, if you come down here and act like an idiot,
no, I totally agree. That's one of the things. And that's it. Like you said, in America too, no one is beneath you. Ever. Right. And yet I've had a couple of people here. One of them I will not go out to eat with. I wasn't even there, but they brought him French fries he didn't ask for. And who knows? He doesn't speak the language. He might have asked for it.
Yeah.
But he went off on them. I go, why would you ever go off on anyone? Yeah. Why would you ever treat somebody like that? Because one, they're trying to do their best. And, he was just a jerk. And I said, I will never go. I will never go eat. Because I will never treat someone like that.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I mean, and I'm exaggeratedly so in another country, but I can't tell you how many times I've been out with people down here that, there's just these guys that I think just have some serious insecurities, and they come here and they're able to feel like a big timer because they can do whatever they want to do. And when they get the opportunity to treat someone like shit and show them that they're above them, I think they do it. Yeah, I have a guy that I used to go out and eat with 3 or 4 times a week over in Laureles when I was living there, and he was always bitching at the waitresses. I finally had to stop hanging out with him.
You know what? That's an excellent point. It is the insecurities, because the one guy that I'm thinking of offhand, he does all right, but he's not.
In the States, he's a regular dude, right?
In the States, he average.
Yeah.
He comes down here, but you're right, and I think that is it. It's just the insecurities, and he gets to now be the big man, but I don't think that's being a big man.
No, it's being a small man.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. No, I agree. But I've seen that several times with Americans down here.
Well, the American, the traveler, you hear this shit.
I think I've told you that, I have such a small circle and it keeps getting smaller. And most of it is because I've built a reputation here and I have friends here and I'm pretty recognizable with the Spanish skills. You become pretty recognizable because most people have been here 10, 15, 20 years and they speak none of the language, especially, foreigners. And there's very few Americans in the city that speak the language to a high level. And so, I'm really just careful who I hang around with because I know how I treat people and I don't want to take the chance on bringing someone along with me that doesn't treat people well.
Well, and not just your language skills, but you have the most knowledge of anyone I know. I mean, you have gone everywhere, as I said, by yourself, the different countries. And when you go you don't sit in a tourist area. No. You get out and see the country and see the culture.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why you've helped mentor me, because of times I need help or I'm always having to ask somebody something, and your knowledge is just amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, but I have to give credit on that to when I first came here, I at least understood a decent amount of the language because I had experience in the past, and a lot of taxi drivers, a lot of people in the city took me under their wing. Once they realized that I really wanted to learn the language, I was really doing good things. A lot of people took me under their wing and they taught me a lot of things about the city that I probably would have never learned otherwise. So the knowledge I have is one, because I fell in love with the place and people understood that I was in love with it. So they started feeding me information. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you're nice to people here, they're going to be nice to you. And on the other side of that, if you're bad to people, they're going to be.
I pray there's
not going to end well
if you're bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're an American and you come to another country and you act like an asshole, I hope there's karma.
Damn right.
I do. I feel strongly about that. But hey, man, appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it.
I love talking about this, traveling in this city, and it's really been phenomenal for me. And people, if you ever get a chance, stick your head in and look around.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll do it again soon.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Matt Chambers Connects. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we'll dive deeper into these two fascinating worlds. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Matt Chambers Connects. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Music, and many other major podcast platforms so you don't miss a show. Also, please join us on our social media channels so you can connect with other listeners and ask your most pressing questions. And also tell us what types of guests you'd like to see on the show. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.